What's going on, RV owners? Today I'm going to be showing you just how easy it is to make plumbing repairs or adjustments around your RV with just a few simple tools and a general understanding of how the plumbing system in your RV is assembled. And I know some people might be saying, hey, I'm taking work out of my own mouth showing you guys how to do this stuff, but at the end of the day, to be fair, I don't really feel like what most RV technicians charge, including myself hourly, really justifies coming to put a couple clamps on. Sometimes it can seem really overcomplicated and like you need a special skill set to do stuff like this. And the reality is that's not true. You watch this video, do a little look around your RV, develop an understanding of it, and I have confidence that you will be able to tackle any plumbing job in your RV. Today we're going to be talking about the pressurized side of the plumbing system. In other words, the pressurized system where the water comes out of. We'll do all your drains and P-traps and that part of the plumbing system in a separate video. So first, we're gonna cover the basics, what each part of the plumbing system is. There is a lot of different things that you're gonna come across in the plumbing system, but these are the major components. Starting with the piping. Now, the piping that is in most RVs, and I mean most, 95% at least, is going to be PEX B. PEX B is a semi-rigid piping. It is made of a plastic material, and it does have, some give and some flex. You can have some bend to it, but for the most part, it's pretty rigid. Now, as far as this piping goes, this isn't anything proprietary to the RV industry. This is something you can get at your local hardware store. You're going to be able to find it in big, large 100-foot rolls. You'll be able to find 10-foot sections. But the most common thing that you'll likely be buying are like the 3 to 5 foot sections that you can get at your local hardware store for a couple dollars. The next thing is going to be all of the fittings, the different type of unions and connectors that you're going to find for your RV. And we're actually going to start with that. Again, the PEX B is pretty straightforward. Most hardware stores have it. They're going to have these fittings as well. But let's talk about specifically what fittings you're looking for in your RV. Now, these here are your unions. They're going to be T's, elbows, and straight unions. These are what connect two different pipes together, which we're going to actually be doing, so you'll get to see how that works. Sometimes you'll have a T where things might have to come in 3 different ways. You'll see these on like water heater bypasses. You'll have your elbows. Your elbows are obviously where you're going to be making a sharp turn with the plumbing. And then you have your union. The most common reason you'll use a union is if you have, say, a damaged piece of pipe you have to cut out, like say a mouse chewed through it, and you're connecting just 2 pieces of pipe together straight. That's what the straight union is going to be for. Then you're going to have your PEX clamps. Now, there's going to be 2 different styles of these that you'll see at a hardware store, and you'll see some argument on which one is better. There are copper ring style, and then there are the PEX cinch clamp, which is what you're going to find all over your RV. And I'm here to tell you that the RV industry actually uses these for a reason. It's not because they're cheaper. In some cases, these can actually be a little bit more expensive. The reason they use them is really because RVs are prone to being in freezing temperatures, and the copper rings being more rigid, they don't really have any give or memory. So that's why the RV industry ends up using these, because in the wintertime, if something does slush up or freeze up a bit and stretches this out, this is actually just going to continue to go right back to its own shape and not have much give as far as stretching out. I'll be honest with you, before I was ever in the RV industry, working in residential and commercial, I've used both. Plumbers might tell you they have a preference and say the copper rings are better, but in all honesty, I don't see a problem with the stainless steel rings. If you want to use the copper rings, use the copper rings. Let me know how it works out for you. Then you are going to have your different types of threaded fittings. These are probably the most common thing you'll be replacing as far as like leaking fittings or failed fittings are going to be these. And you're going to find these in both FIP and MIP. FIP being female, MIP being male. That's the size of the fitting that you're looking for. And again, they do have these at all of your local hardware stores. What you're looking for when buying these is going to be something that goes from 1/2-inch PEX to FIP or MIP. You might see them under a few different names. You might see them under NPT, but fun fact, they are the same thing. Just because of these fittings alone, in the process of making this video, I've already kind of made a note to make another video really breaking down all of these different thread sizes and things you'll need. But again, the 2 most common are going to be half-inch PEX to FIP or half-inch PEX to MIP. When it comes to buying valves, it's going to be the same thing. You're going to want to look for half-inch PEX inlet, half-inch PEX outlet. Almost all of the plumbing in your RV is going to be half-inch PEX. There's a rare occasion you'll come across 3/4. You'll usually see that for low point drains. I've seen it on some Grand Designs. They use a 3/4 to have more flow on the low points. It's not very common though, and it'll be obvious when you do have it. But again, you're looking for half-inch inlet, half-inch outlet. Essentially, half-inch is that golden number you're looking for because, again, almost everything in your RV is going to be half-inch. And then we have to talk about the tools. This is where everybody thinks that the plumbing tools that you're using in an RV are some expensive or proprietary tools, and quite simply, that is so far from the truth. If you go to my website, thatrvtech.com, I've actually got a whole kit you can get on Amazon that is going to come with all the tools you need, which include cutters for cutting the pipe, and then crimpers for applying the clamps. And that's it. Quite literally, that's it. Now, one piece of advice I'll give you here is when shopping for these tools, make sure you're buying the right one. Again, you're going to see some that are for the copper rings. That will not work for these stainless clamps. And they're often right next to each other. So pay attention to what tool you're buying at the hardware store. Now, if money's not an option, I do recommend getting one of these. These are a little bit more expensive. And by a little bit, I mean maybe $10 to $15 more. I actually grabbed this one at Home Depot because my other one conveniently walked away. And I saw a feature on this my last one didn't have, which might be perfect for you guys as, don't take this the wrong way, but newbies. And the thing I loved about that new feature is it has a light. Once that is completely clamped and this knows it is 100% clamped, that light's going to come on telling you you're good to go. But there's an additional benefit to this tool that justifies it being a little bit more. Now this tool, which is the common tool you're going to use to crimp those rings, requires you to open it this much in order to get it onto the clamp and then clamp it down. So with that being said, in an RV, you're going to come across a lot of areas that are very hard to get into. You're going to have fittings that are behind cabinets and buried places that you may not be able to get that whole thing open with all this space. And then you have to have two different hands and you're trying to do this. Again, I've been using this tool itself right here is probably 8 years old and still working great. But I've had plenty of times where I've had to take things apart further than I needed to just so that I can get this opened up all the way and crimp that ring. Whereas this has a much smaller footprint when you're getting in tight places. Not only is it shorter, it also doesn't have to open up nearly as much. And the way that this one works is it will actually ratchet until it's complete. Hence that little light that comes on. You're gonna sit here and do this until it is finally done. Again, worth every penny. I just added this one to my Amazon storefront as well. So if you guys wanna pick up that one, you have an option. But again, when you buy a kit, it's gonna come with the cutter, it's gonna come with crimpers. It usually is going to come with some of your PEX crimp rings, and some of them you even get some fittings and stuff. So again, the main purpose of this video is to just help you understand just how easy this is. So we're gonna jump right into it. I'm gonna show you the basics of applying one of these clamps, replacing a fitting, and how you're gonna do that. Before we get into that, let's talk about these threaded on fittings. You're gonna find these fittings all over the place. These are attached to your water pump, behind your city water inlet, these attached to your water heater most of the time. These are a very big culprit to leaks. These love to leak, these screw-on fittings. But I'll be honest with you, most of the time it doesn't actually require you to replace this fitting because it's not the fitting that's bad, it is the cone washer that's on the inside. And the cone washer is going to look like this. It is just a simple little rubber washer. Most of the time, these actually fail because the manufacturer has just simply way over tightened it and pinched this thing to a point where it creates a leak point. But to be fair, RVs are just bouncing down the road all day, every day, and eventually little rubber seals like this are going to wear out. And you can just take a little seal puller or whatever it is, something that's not going to damage the fitting, pop out that old seal, get it out of there, and then take a new seal and pop it in there. Most hardware stores have these seals. Again, they're called cone washers. They're usually, I mean, they're sold under a couple different names, but just something to consider. You might want to have a couple of these in the RV too, because you may not have to actually use any of these tools if your leak is coming from that fitting, because again, the cone washer is a pretty big culprit there. So let's get into the fun part of this video, where I'm going to show you how you're going to cut the pipe, how you're going to put a fitting on there, and how you're going to crimp it. It is super easy. Let's do it. First things first, we are just going to take a piece of this pipe and cut it. When using your cutters, you want to make sure that you are as straight as possible. You don't want to be offset or making sideways cuts. Some of these tools guide you in that, but you're going to want to make sure that you use your best effort to try and create a nice, straight, clean cut. And if you really don't want to use one of these, or you don't have one of these cutters laying around, I'll be honest with you, you can just take a razor blade and make your way through it. It's going to be a little tougher because, you know, again, this is pretty tough plastic. It's not light duty stuff. It's made to hold a lot of pressure, and this is not going to be a straight cut. I'm just doing this for example, but it will cut through that just fine. So as far as using the tool goes, we're going to use just a union here for an example, and I've got 2 clamps. You're going to need one for each end. First thing I'm going to do is get my clamps on the pipes just so that they are there. You can't get them on once the fitting's on there. Pop the fitting in there, and on these unions, you're going to push it as far as it will go. They have their own stop point, and you're going to get it right there. As far as where the clamps go, you want them to be about 1/8 of an inch from that fitting or the edge of the pipe, just like that. You don't have to keep these all straight in a line. You know, I just have a little bit of OCD and I like my stuff to look neat. But again, you're going to make sure that that's sitting nice up against there. And you're going to have this little ear, if you will, that comes off of that clamp. And that ear is where you're going to place your tool. The tool is going to go on that ear, and then I'm just going to start crimping. Now, what I like to do is as soon as I feel a little bit of tension in the tool, and I know that I've gotten myself on the clamp, I'm just going to kind of make sure that we've stayed on track there. As you're moving things around, you can start sliding pieces off of the pipe. So once it's clamped, it's clamped. So make sure once you start getting tension and it's holding itself in place, you get it readjusted. But then again, I'm going to do a couple ratchets here, and I want to show you the light feature on this one. Once we get fully crimped, that light comes on and shows me that this is 100% crimped. And this tool doesn't let go on its own, this particular one, so we're going to release it. And that is clamped to that side. We're going to go ahead and do the other side the same exact way we just did that one. Got the blue light, we know we're good. We can release that. That is all there is to creating a PEX plumbing connection. And once these are connected, a lot of times you'll actually have a little bit of movement. So if you're doing like a 90 degree and you have to move it, you'll have a little spin in there. But that's that. That is all there is to a PEX crimp. But odds are you're not going to be working with 2 pieces of bare pipe. You're going to be working with a fitting that is already attached, and you need to replace it, remove it, and get something different on there or reroute it. So removing these, there's a couple different ways. Me personally, I take my Dremel and I cut this little ear off right here, and then it will just pop off. Most of the time, you end up damaging the fitting or damaging the area of pipe right there where you're removing this clamp. If not, you've got that kind of permanent spot where it's been crimped on there. So I actually don't recommend trying to remove these things unless you really need the pipe. Like if you don't have enough for the next fitting to go on there and reach, then I recommend, yeah, you're going to have to find a way to cut this off. You can use a little pair of side cutters. There's a few tricks. They make a special tool to remove these too. What I recommend doing is just starting fresh, getting rid of that whole bad fitting and that piece of pipe, and starting with fresh pipe. In which case you can do the same thing and you can get your clamp ring on there, get your fitting on there. Again, go until it stops. It's going to have its own stop point on there. Bring it down to where it's about 1/8 of an inch below the top of that pipe, just like that. And this time we'll actually use these ones. And these ones have a similar feature where they won't open up until you've crimped them all the way, and they will let go on their own. It's actually one thing I like about this tool is it just lets go once I'm done. I don't have to hit that little release. But this one, same thing. You're going to open it up all the way, get that little ear in there, and then as long as the space allows it, I actually like to set that bottom part on the floor so that I can just crimp it down just like that, and now you have replaced that fitting. So as you guys just saw, super easy stuff. I mean, you could teach your kid how to do this. you're going to run into some situations that, yeah, you might want a little professional expertise on. But when you have a leaking fitting at a toilet or underneath a sink, behind your water bay, you know, a city water inlet is leaking, most of that stuff is threaded on. A city water inlet, which is where your city hose connects to and brings it into the RV, on the back of it is just a threaded fitting that one of these screws onto. The back of that city water inlet is going to have a male threaded connector like this, and you will often see something like this just screwed right onto it. It's really as simple as that. So the only parts that can break in the plumbing system, for the most part, are easy to replace. You can get these fittings, you can get a new city water inlet. You can do a lot of this stuff yourself, guys. You don't need to pay somebody like me or pay a dealership $250, which is usually the minimum. You're paying for a minimum of an hour for a leaking fitting that costs us, I don't know, 40 cents in bulk and maybe 10 minutes of our time. Anyway, don't let me get into a big long rant about how I'm trying to destroy my own business by teaching you guys how to do it. Let's talk about some other parts of the plumbing system or other ways of making plumbing repairs and my thoughts on them. One of the big ones is going to be your push-to-fit connectors, often called SharkBites. This is called Aqualock. They're sold under a few different names. SharkBite is kind of like the big name brand. It's the one you'll see a lot of people saying, hey, it's DIY friendly. And yeah, it is. To be honest with you, I truly think they've come quite a long way over the years and gotten a little bit better, but that is in residential use. A common thing you'll see, same with electrical parts, is, oh, they're approved, they're code approved, they're allowed to be used inside walls. Well, yes, when they're approving them for houses, most houses don't move down the road and bounce and create an earthquake every time they drive. Your RV does. When they approve something like this, and people, plumbers or anybody else who says they've been using them for years, what they're forgetting is that that is in a home, not in an RV. I have seen these pop off numerous times, and I've seen them chew the pipes up. Because the way that a lot of these work is once the pipe gets in there, there's little teeth that are preventing it from sliding off on its own. And over time, as everything is sitting there moving and bouncing around and doing that, it will actually start to chew up little areas on the end of the pipe where it's made its connection, and those areas will actually start to leak, whether it be a drip or they just pop completely off. And I know a lot of people will say like, oh, but you need special tools to remove these. There's no way they just pop off. And that's just not true. Most of these things can be manipulated off. You can sit here and move them around. And if you get right behind the, I don't even know, whatever the name is for the little tab here that kind of restricts it, you can end up popping these off. Now, this particular brand, Aqualock, I'll be honest with you, and this is not a paid thing. If you are going to use these, I'd prefer you use Aqualock. And my reasoning for that is once I get this one completely on a SharkBite fitting, I can take my fingernails and I can slide them and pop that fitting right off. I've showed it in a video before on TikTok when everybody was saying I was wrong. These ones don't have a tendency to do that. You really got to get up underneath them and pop them off. But as you can see, it is very capable of popping off. Now let me show you something. Look at that pipe. Remember how it was just sitting there twisting and turning it? Look at that. So SharkBites are good, right? Wrong. In an RV, no. In a house, I would use these in my own house, to be honest with you. Would I bury one in a wall? Probably not. While we're on that note, we can end the topic of the push-to-fit connectors. When you are cutting away things and replacing them, again, you're going to run into situations where that line just barely fits where it needs to go. And you're not going to be able to cut it off. You are going to have to cut these ears off. And even after you cut it off, sometimes it's a real pain to get that fitting out because that piece of pipe has been crimped around it for so long. You're going to have to remember that you don't want to cut this, because what you're going to end up wanting to do, which is common, is to take a razor blade and try and slit that pipe to try and save that fitting or whatever you're doing. Well, if you take the razor blade and you just make a little line or a score through any of these little ribs right here, or the barbs as they call them, guess what? You're going to destroy that fitting because that fitting is now going to leak. Anytime you're putting a fitting in like this, or even one of these, always take a look at your barbs. Make sure that, you know, it didn't have any marks or gouges in it, because you don't want to sit here and get everything all crimped up and put away to pressurize the system just to find out that it's got a slow drip. Don't do it. Now, on the note of slow drip or leaking or something like that, if you don't want to be the person that's doing all this, maybe you watch this video and this still doesn't seem like it's your thing, that's fine. I'm not judging you for it, but there's two things that I think you should keep in your RV just in case. The first one is going to be a female plug. This is going to be that 1/2-inch female plug that is going to fit into this. Can you guess why? Well, let's say you had a water heater or something. A water heater is actually a good example that doesn't have a bypass, so like a tankless water heater, and you crack something inside the water heater, it's pouring water out everywhere. Now, your only option is to get the water heater fixed, or you're gonna have to shut your water off throughout the rest of your trip. But if you were to disconnect the water heater, because it's likely gonna have fittings like this behind it, you could now take these plugs and just block it off. Yeah, you're not gonna have hot water flowing in the RV, but at least you'll be able to use your water and you're not gonna be flooding your unit or ruining your vacation by having no water or flushing toilets or anything. So on these threaded fittings, they do make termination caps that will actually stop this right here. I'm gonna throw one of these in my Amazon storefront, so if you guys wanna grab one, you can. And then another one right here is gonna be for your non-threaded fittings. So in other words, you know, if you had a pipe that busted and you wanted to stop it, you know, say there was a line going to a toilet or something and you wanted to stop it, well, this SharkBite fitting, yes, I said SharkBite, even though I don't recommend them, for temporary use, this is a termination cap. This goes right on the end and bam, you have stopped a leak. I actually keep one of these in my tool bags at all times because, you know, God forbid you hit something or you knock a plumbing line off and it starts dumping water. It is so much faster to grab one of these out and just stick it on the end of the line than to go try and shut the water off, especially if you're buried in a compartment. And as you guys saw, once again, you know, they say you need special tools to remove shark bites. I call BS because that's all there is to it. Yeah, we won't go down that rabbit hole. I will die on that hill that shark bites are no good in your RV. I really hope a lot of you guys are watching this and realizing just how easy fixing plumbing in your RV can be with this tool and this tool. And if you want to be really bougie, you can get this tool as well. I just want to be clear and clarify, you only need one or the other of these crimpers. You don't need this one and this one. This one is an upgrade, again, because of that little light feature once you get fully crimped and you have that light that ensures that it's there. I will put the names and sizes of the types of fittings that you're going to be looking for. I also have them linked in my Amazon storefront. I have a whole section labeled plumbing that will be all of your different fittings and stuff that you need. And again, luckily for you, every RV, most RVs, you know, I got to be real technical here, most RVs, all this stuff is going to be exactly the same. All of your hardware stores are the same. You'll be able to get all of this stuff from your local hardware store, whether it be Menards, Home Depot. You guys all know Menards is my favorite. And guys, I have a favor to ask of you. This is the first video I'm filming in this kind of mock studio that I've built. More of a classroom style video. We're not even in an RV. I really want your guys' feedback. As I make more of these, good and bad feedback is appreciated because it helps me help you. I want to continue making these educational how-tos and really break them down and not stress about trying to do it while I'm at work on a customer unit. So again, any feedback that you have, good or bad, if you don't want to do it publicly, shoot it into my email, that's fine. And again, any of the stuff you guys see in my videos, if you want to help support the channel, you can get it all in my Amazon storefront. You don't pay any more for it. All that happens is Amazon gives me commission for you guys shopping with them from my link. And of course, as always, if you guys want to see more tech tips, tricks, and even some tours and RVs, make sure you guys press that subscribe button.